So about a year and a half ago, Wizards of the Coast released the Magic set Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. Now this Magic set was supposed to be released concurrently with Baldur's Gate 3. And unfortunately Baldur's Gate 3 was postponed another year and a half. Because of this and because of some other reasons, the Baldur's Gate Magic set didn't do so well. I think one of the big reasons is nobody really knew who these characters were yet. People like Lae'zel, Blackheart's champion. Yeah, she's pretty hardcore, pretty awesome. Shadowheart, Dark Justiciar. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. Yep, that's my favorite thing. Then there's Astarion the Decadent. Yeah, all the girls simp over him. Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. He kind of sounds like that guy from Flight of the Conchords. Will, Blade of Frontiers. Although in my version he's got horns. Karlach, Fury of Avernus. Oh yeah, Big Mama Karlach. And of course, everybody's favorite, Nashalia, the Illithid Agent. Yep, she's a pretty awesome rogue. Oh, I gotcha. Nashalia is my character. Let me show you how I made her into a magic card. And I'm going to give you guys a super condensed version of how I did the artwork on this. I started off with a base mesh from Daz 3D. Honestly, Daz 3D is really inexpensive for base meshes, and they come pre-rigged. And being pre-rigged saves a lot of time. Plus there are clothes that you can add. And as you see here, I've kind of added the base layer of clothing that goes underneath the armor. I didn't add everything else. Whenever you're using pre-made assets, it's always a good idea to just use the things that are going to save you time, but don't really matter in the end. So for instance, the gloves she's wearing, I could model those. Those would take a long time to model though. And to rig them up, to make them all work, it's a big pain in the butt. I can just one click and have gloves, and nobody's really going to be looking at the gloves anyways. But it's essential that they are there. It's not essential that they aren't there, if that makes sense. And also I'm using, other pre-made assets. Like I had this horn pack, and the horns are better than I could sculpt. Anytime you can find something that's better than what you can do, go ahead and use it. The whole thing here, whenever you're using those pre-made assets, just make sure that you make them your own in the end. It is perfectly fine to use them. And I hear a lot of people on the internet like, oh, you're cheating, yada, yada, yada. It's perfectly fine. I can tell you for a fact that there are many Magic cards with Daz 3D figures in them, especially in the background and stuff, where you need a person in the background, but it doesn't really matter, how long it took to paint that person. They've used Daz 3D. So what you can see here now is I've taken those Daz 3D models, and I took the texture files out of them, and now I'm going to hand paint all the markings on Nashalia's face here. She has some very distinct tattoos and some distinct eye makeup, and I'm going to be painting that in as well as skin tone. And so the really cool thing with this technique is I can use all my Photoshop brushes. And what I'm going for is I want the actual picture not to look photorealistic, which is what the original intender of the model and of these textures wanted, was like a photorealistic look. I want it to look painted. So here I am, I'm just painting with brush strokes the skin texture. And you'll see later on this will actually look like it was hand painted on canvas eventually. I'm going to load it in here, and this is Daz 3D's stock renderer, their iRay. And so I'm going to switch this out. It looks really bad. You can't really see anything. I don't like it, so I'm switching it over to the stock one in Blender, the principal BSDF here. And now we're starting to actually see things. And it just kind of goes back and forth like this. I'm painting in some highlights now. There we are. And I'm just going to keep adding layers and highlights and dark places. I'm almost like baking in the shadows just in the way I paint it. Now I'm going to try some different eye makeups. And I don't get it right a few of the times. I kind of make it look really odd. But eventually I do kind of stumble across the right shape for this. And that's what this is. It's all a bunch of trial and error, basically. Here we go. I think this is the final shape that I ended up on. And there we go. That's looking pretty good now. Now I got to do those neck tattoos. Are pretty distinct. And I turned on symmetry here so I can just draw symmetrical. And you always start off with like a rough drawing. And then once you understand what it's going to look like, you can go and spend a little bit more time on doing the more precise. So I saw I needed to make these a lot longer, and maybe a little bit wavier, and eventually we'll get to the final result. That's looking a lot better now. She needs one right up her chin. And some kind of wavier ones on the side. There, that's looking good. And everything else is done this way too. All those pre-made, like the pants and the gloves and everything, I've kind of done my own textures on. So I'm really just using them to save time. And here I am modeling some of the armor. And the armor process is the same for all the armor that you can see on here. The skull icon and then the buckles, those are all pre-made assets as well. I like to search CG Trader and ArtStation are both good websites to get little assets like that. Anything you can do to save some time. You know, modeling that little demon skull would probably take a couple hours, so just being able to grab one out of my asset library that works and actually works really well. Huge time saver. And so the armor just goes together pretty simply. It's just basic modeling. And then I'm going to take that into Photoshop as well. I'm going to unwrap it and I'm going to paint the armor texture on, and you'll see the armor textures on the rest of the armor. And that was all just same process. So you do basic modeling here, you UV export, and I bring it in Photoshop and paint it. And I do this when I want to make a very painterly looking thing. Yeah, so what's left of that original mesh that we used is really that corset, and then the stitching on the arms and the gloves are the original model. The pants too, which the pants aren't really a part of the, they're going to be cut out, so it doesn't really matter. Don't spend time on things that don't matter. I did model those crossbows myself. It was actually a lot of fun. I don't usually model little things like that. And you can see here I've added like a background in my Blender scene just to see what it would look like, just to play with some lighting. That background was rendered with Photoshop's new AI, and it's not very good. I thought it was going to be better. Now I'm in Photoshop here, and these buildings are actually just some random 3D models too, once again from an asset pack that I that I just really quickly rendered and dropped into my scene. Now I'm just painting right over the top of them. I'm just kind of using them as guidelines to what I want. The background doesn't really matter that much in this scene. It's all kind of out of focus and pushed back, so I'm not too worried about it. I just want some shapes back there that are going to evoke kind of like a city or a temple, something along those lines. I'm going to start playing with some color correction here as well, just trying out some different compositions, different colors. That was very dark, and now I'm very bright, and I think I ended up somewhere in between the two eventually, but here I'm going to start rendering out the hair. And you can see the face now is also been painted over mostly, but some of that texture is still from that original texture that I painted and then put on the face. So combining those two really makes it look like a painting. Makes it look like it was hand painted, even though it's a 3D model. And really getting rid of that 3D model look and making it look hand painted is what I was going after for this particular project. And here I am just rendering out the hair, fixing some things. Hair is really tricky to do in the 3D model, so it's way easier just for me to put something that kind of has the right shape, and then in Photoshop just paint right over it. Hair is relatively easy to paint in Photoshop and really difficult to model, so you got to choose your battles there. Notice her eye was kind of a little cross, so I'm going to fix that there too. And that really was a lot better. Added some fangs, some highlights. I'm going to keep on rendering the rest of it. And I'm just going to work through the whole rest of the painting like this. Cleaning up edges, adding texture places. And you can see if you look in the background, it actually looks like it's on canvas now. I've added some texture there. I'm going to start playing with some flaming arrows and stuff like that, and adjusting different textures to lay over the front. I think I ended up eventually on some cinders to make it look like there was a fire. She does have a strong orange kind of underlighting there, so I figured standing in front of a fire would look more appropriate with flaming arrows. So I'm going to leave the painting off there, and we're going to talk about designing a magic card. All right, so when it came time to design the card and the features that I was going to put on it, I went ahead and took a look at some of the rogues that we find in the Baldur's Gate set, as well as some rogues that we see across the rest of Magic. Most rogues are going to be Dimir in color, and Dimir is in the Ravnica block. Dimir is a guild of rogues and secrets and spycraft. And throughout all of Magic, those colors represent or tend to represent mostly rogues. And that's blue and black. And so looking at the blue and black sets, the blue and black cards in the Baldur's Gate set, Rilsa Real Kingpin came up as probably the most in line with what Nashalia is going to end up being. And so reading her card, she has Death Touch, and you'll see this a lot in rogues, is they'll have some sort of evasion. That could be Death Touch, that could be flying, that could be menace. A lot of times unblockable is a very common one. She also has whenever she enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. An initiative is a mechanic specific to the Baldur's Gate block. And basically this is giving initiative, and that's letting you venture into a dungeon. And when you've completed a dungeon, you get a bonus to your attacks. So initiative is really important in Baldur's Gate. And then your general, your rogue traits of Death Touch. I looked at this other one, Safana. She has Menace, just like Death Touch, some form of evasion. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you have initiative, create a treasure token. So once again, initiative is very important. The Ravenloft Adventurer. When the Ravenloft Adventurer enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. So the Rogue Assassin has an initiative is also important for this card. Yeah. The next card, I found this Tiefling. This Tiefling also has initiative. And then the Imoan Mystic Trickster. And this is a human rogue wizard at the beginning of your end step. If you have initiative, draw a card. And also, she has ward, and that makes her harder to hit. So rogues are, have something like that. They always tend to have that sort of thing. The Arakakra Sneak, a bird rogue, flying, right? Evasion, and then when Arakakra Sneak enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. So another initiative card. So when I went to design Nashalia, I gave her some form of evasion, which would be Death Touch. I thought that was appropriate for a rogue that runs around and kills people in one shot. She can't be blocked. And this is one thing I thought would make this card really cool, because if she can't be blocked, it's easy for her to gain the initiative. So in Magic, when you have initiative, it can be taken away from you if another person's creature does damage to you. So if she's unblockable, she can take initiative back. And then the extra little bit of bonus for initiative is whenever you gain initiative, Nashalia deals damage equal to its power to any target. That's kind of like what the Orcish Bowmasters, which is one of the most broken cards out there right now, does. Whenever you draw a card, deals damage. Initiative is a lot harder to take, but basically because she's a Death Touch creature, whenever you gain an initiative, Nashalia will be able to kill another creature. And the way I was thinking of building a character like this is I would maybe make it kind of a Voltron deck where you try to buff up her power. Because if she has 10 power as a commander, she could do 10 damage to an opponent and kill them flat outright. Also, being unblockable means it's possible to kill 2 people in one turn. She could do commander damage to one opponent and then gain the initiative and deal damage to the other opponent. So super powerful on the battlefield. Maybe too powerful. I did make her a mythic and she is my character. So I'm going to make her super powerful and I'm going to have fun trying her out in a deck with friends. So the great thing about Magic and especially Commander is as long as your friends are okay with it, you can play it. And that's really my intent with this, is to play this with my friends and hopefully they don't hate it. Maybe I can do a little bit of change to it and we'll see how that pans out. All right, so now we have all of the text that's going to go on the card. We have the artwork for the card. We need to make the card. So I'm headed over to mtgcardbuilder.com. It's an all-right Magic card creator. There are some others out there that are more, that allow you to do more things. But this is pretty darn good, especially for web-based browsing or web-based editor. So we're going to add a gold frame because we're going to be Dimir colors. We're going to be 2 colors. And then we're going to select the gold number plate there for the power and toughness. So we got that on the bottom. Now we have to switch over to the legend crowns. And we're going to need to do a blue legend crown. So we click that and we add that frame to the card. And now we're going to click on the black one and we're going to add right half to the card. So we got it mixed there. We have to go back to the regular frames. And we have to add the blue pinstripe. So we're going to hit blue and then the pinstripe. We're going to add that frame to the card. Now we're going to do the same, the black pinstripe and add right half. There we go. Now that's looking pretty good. We got to adjust, put the power and toughness up above everything. But that is our frame. That's looking pretty darn sick. I love the legend frames. They look good. We can add the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate icon and make it a mythic. That's pretty sweet. Now we can add all of our text. So we have to add the mana cost. And if you want to know, you have to use a code to type in the mana cost. It's right here. WUBRG or 1, 2, 3, etc. So you can just gotta type in those brackets there. I forget what they're called. But then the U for the blue and the B for the black. And we have a mana value, title. We're titling this Nashalia Illithid Agent. She is on track to trying to control the brain and working completely and wholeheartedly with the Illithid Mind Flayer. Next, type. If you want to have a commander, you need to make him a legendary creature or an Elder Dragon, but a legendary creature, and she's a tiefling. She's an Illithid, and she's a rogue. And we can adjust the width of that writing right here. It's pretty simple. Just slide in the slider over until it fits well. Perfect. Now, power and toughness. I'm going to make her a good defender. I was thinking about doing a 1-1. And a 1-3 might be a little bit too powerful. I'm not sure. And then we just type all of our touch, all of our text here. Death touch. Nashalia Illithid Agent is unblockable, or cannot be blocked. And then the phrasing here has to be pretty specific. I initially was going to write, whenever you take initiative, deal 1 damage to any target. But you have to specify that Nashalia deals damage equal to her power or deals 1 damage. I was thinking about doing 2. But I figured equal to its power. You also have to refer to it. I noticed that usually cards are it, even if we're talking about a character. Either you write out the full name or you call it it. Equal to its power to any target, which can be very broken, especially since it's a death toucher. That means any commander creatures are doomed as soon as she takes initiative. And then all we have to do now is add the art. So I'm going to click on art, and we can credit myself to the art. Choose a file. Let's download it. So that concludes how to make your own magic card. How would you build a commander deck if you had Nashalia, the Illithid Agent, as your commander? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to download a copy of this card yourself so you can print it out, play it, make a commander deck, it will be on my Gumroad for free. You can click the link in the description, and we'll see you guys next time.